Hello, everyone. We are live. Hopefully, you can see and hear us okay. We'll just wait a few minutes while we'll wait for the notification to go out and a few people jumping on to say hello. Jonny's based in South Africa, so you're nice and toasty and warm. The rest of us, it's like Baltic here. Hi, Jamie, joined us on YouTube. Just let us know if you can hear and see us okay on there. Yeah, let us know,
I hear
guys. Pardon?
I hear it's a little frosty over there.
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit cold. I mean, it's not as cold as it was just before, like that couple of weeks before Christmas, where you were in the UK then. It's definitely not as cold as that. But it is definitely a bit more Baltic now, which I prefer. I'm okay. You never hear me moaning about it being cold. I love it. I feel way more motivated when it's cold. I'm moving to Norway next year. I've decided. I'm definitely going to do it.
That's your like digital nomad spot, isn't it? You're gonna move to like
Ooh.
Iceland, Norway, maybe Antarctica if they let you, maybe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Northern Siberia. That's like where I need to go, I think. Definitely. That's where I feel most motivated for sure. Loads of people jumping on. Phil, Jamie, Paul, Facebook user, Paulina is the only one that's got a gold star for filling out the StreamYard so far. I'm going to jump on the comments so I can see who you are. Steve Wright. Hi, Steve. Maria, Marta, Leah, loads of people jumping on. Hi, Simon. Yeah, just let us know. You guys feeling the cold, or are you wishing you were like Jonny, sat in the warm in South? Well, not even warm, like blistering hot, right?
Blistering hot. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty hot. It's about 30, I think. Yeah, it's actually perfect though because it's by the sea, so you get the breeze.
yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm not looking too red, but I come down with a bit of sunstroke, which seems to happen every time I go to a hot country. I just sort of forget that you have to wear sunscreen, and yes, I just sort of walk around the beach a little bit. You don't feel the heat because of the wind and the breeze, which is beautiful. But yeah, just
Yeah,
could be
Johnny's
working a
just
couple of
got
days.
my mum instinct kicked in, like literally my mum mode kicked in. I just gave Jonny a telling off for not wearing like sunscreen and things like that beforehand, which is crazy because we all sell sunscreen, I imagine in some aspect, or have done in some aspects. So yeah, get yourself some sunscreen. You can't walk around, especially that close to the equator, walking around with no sunscreen on. Naughty,
It's
naughty.
true. And
It is
sunscreen
true.
works in off season as well, because people like myself go to South Africa and need it. Sunscreen's very expensive abroad, so sunscreen's a pretty good one when it's not summer because less competition and more
Absolutely.
discounts. Yeah, it's a good one.
Well, absolutely. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, guys. We are going to be talking about building 7-figure replenishable business systems. So we're going to dive into that in a moment because, Jonny, I know you love it when we just get past the chit chat and we hit on it straight away. But I've got to say hello to some people. Yvonne, Rosie says I've just been chatting to Rosie and it literally started snowing as we were chatting. So it's definitely looking a lot like Christmas down Rosie's way for sure. Mark's joined us as well. Never sold sunscreen. That sounds like some sort of, that could be a podcast, like never sold sunscreen or something like that. It could be one of those, definitely. Aftab's joined us. That's Chris that said that. Kelly's joined us as well. Loads of people today. I think it's the Jonny effect. When Jonny comes on, you all guys come out. You want to hear what he's got to say for sure. Michelle said, don't forget after sun too, and fake tan as well. There's the other thing you've got to think about, and it's a good opportunity to say into this. When you discover a successful product, think about how many different successful products branch off of that successful product. How many different routes can you go down? How many rabbit holes can you go down in looking for that product? You think about, okay, sunscreen. I know we talk, it's topical. Let's talk about it. So you're talking about sunscreen. Well, first of all, you've got dozens and dozens of brands that you can go down the brand route and look at the different types of brands of sunscreen. Then you've got seasonality, like Jonny spoke about. Obviously, it's going to be busiest in the summer, but people forget there's seasons all around the world in different marketplaces and things like that as well. So you always get the people going abroad. Maybe not so much over the last couple of years with COVID. because no one was traveling anywhere. But we're quite habitual creatures when it comes to selling, and we're only as good sometimes as the last month that we're selling. If we get out of habit of selling of something, we forget about it, and I know that that's particularly common with a lot of Amazon sellers on the reselling side of things. And that's why it's so important to be able to build these systems in place to build those replenishable products. That Jonny in particular, your business is percentage wise what, as close as you can get to 100% being replens, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would actually say it's too far to 100%. I was looking at my sales today, and our sales are the same as December so far, or trending that way.
You don't
Because
like that, do
you? Yeah. So, yeah, I said this on a previous podcast. I was a bit scared of the HFS because I'm in groceries, so I didn't go deep in it. So I didn't really buy many chocolates or anything like that. And I know some people did really well from it, but our sales sort of are staying flat because it's just replenishables. We just throughout the year, it makes it very passive, to be honest. You don't need as many admin VAs, and with the software we have, it's all automated anyway. So for us, building that sort of, we're up to sort of a few million now overall. It's all very systemized and very automated, where we don't have to even think about it because it's all just ensure your forecasting is right and ensure you're ordering enough and ensure you know your reorder points and stuff like that. And it just makes it a lot easier. Can I just touch back on the sunscreen quickly?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the sunscreen, by the way, actually, as well. I wanted to go back to the sunscreen, definitely.
So did you see the news recently that might make sunscreen a big hit on Amazon in 2024?
No.
So on airplanes now, they're removing the 100mm limit. So something that used to like deter people from taking their sunscreens and stuff like that abroad is that you could only fit 100mm. So in 2024, they're getting rid of that. So I imagine that means more people will be buying sunscreen here and then shift it on because their favorite ones they can now take abroad. So you can check back in a couple of years and see if I'm right on the data there. But you're going to see I think the sales rank will go down. It will improve on sunscreen next year. Just a top tip.
Definitely. I've never heard of that, actually. I didn't think about that. I didn't think it was a thing. Sunscreen hamper incoming. Oh, that's Thomas. That's Hayden. I just read the last part. I knew it was Hayden as soon as he said that. But literally, I think going back to what I was saying about the sunscreen as well is that it's branching off, looking at these different products. And that's where, without putting my worst kind of Southern American accent on, that's where you find gold, when you're panning for the gold and you're looking and breaking things down. And if you find like a Nivea sunscreen and you think, okay, yeah, that's cool, that's sold, right? You need to expand out on that. First of all, you expand, well, it's individual the way that you want to do it. But if it was me, I would expand out, right? I'm now going to look at all of the different, Nivea sunscreens in that category, because you're going to have standard, and then you're going to probably have like a factor 10, factor 20, factor 30, factor 50, full sunblock, right? Then you move on, you still on Nivea, then you've got like, okay, for sensitive skin, again, you could have another 5 options for that. And then you can have one for kids and you might have another 5 options for that. And then, as quite rightly said, you might go then into the after sun. And there are thousands of products that you can unearth. And depending on where you are in your selling journey, if you're creating your own listings, your own bundles and things like that, you might then at that next stage decide to make something on the Nivea side of things. Or you might stick to the reselling, and you might then go, okay, I've exhausted all my Nivea options. I'm going to go to Pisburn now, and I'm going to go through that brand, and I'm going to do exactly the same until you've exhausted every possible avenue to find every possible, potential product opportunity you can within that brand. And that's how you build find replenishable opportunities, because not everybody has the discipline to do that. And again, Jonny, I know that's something you do in your business. When we had our wholesale challenge, I always remember this. It's like my little gold star, I think. Do you remember I was talking about, you go through that finding all the different products, and even products that you think are like done to death, but there's still opportunity no matter how you dig. And I remember Jonny's face, like live, it was like, oh, I'm not selling that product. It was like, do you remember that? And I think you were almost annoyed.
So they hate it or love it. Something to do with that.
It's that one, exactly. And you were annoyed, and this was a standard product that everybody sold, everybody thinks is done to death, everyone thinks is saturated. And just by digging deep, you can find some really good products. And even when those products do become saturated, you still have to have a system to come back and look at them at a later stage, because the data never lies. Once we get into that goldfish mentality, which so many sellers do, at least 80% of sellers get into that goldfish mentality of only 3-second memory of what they've sold. If you can go back, go over that, that's how you can build a really strong product list and just continually keep replenishing those.
Yeah, it's funny, back to the sunscreen, but I think it's actually a good way to start off is maybe potentially creating some sort of sunscreen bundle. The reason I say is because you could probably go to somewhere like Superdrug or Boots, and I imagine it's so competitive. There's that side of the world, bricks and mortar retail is so competitive that they'll have loss leaders and stuff like that. So I would say someone who I'm in wholesale, 100% wholesale, I probably wouldn't be able to beat the price from Boots and Superdrug because they have stuff as loss leaders. So it makes sort of the perfect online arbitrage sort of OA starter product, I'd say, because it's the big boys. God, won't be able to compete on price, right? Because there's loss leaders in Superdrug and Boots. So if you're just starting, have a look. Have a look now, actually, and it will start selling. Create that bundle, get it ranked, and you might have a good product by the time summer rolls around. And
exactly, and I think that's the thing, right? And when I first started selling on Amazon, the goal was, the holy grail was always to find products that you could replenish over and over again. And generally, the only route that you could go down that was eventually to go down some sort of wholesale route, which is absolutely, to have a true replenishable, you do need to work your way up the supplier chain as much as possible, sometimes even go into manufacturer direct in order to have that continual source of replenishments. But I think sometimes people move so quickly beyond that. Replenishable products they're built. Okay. They're not, you don't go from day one and say, right, okay, I'm going to order 5,000 units of this one. If there isn't some level of proven data or history of you selling that product, you build up to it, right?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what I've always said, and my philosophy is always to test a product. And keeper data is reliable, but it's not 100%, right? So, and this is, again, I don't want to keep shilling the system, but that's why buying that sample data and getting that real sales data is so essential. And then knowing what to do with it, how many to buy on your second order, right? And if your second order goes well, then okay, how do I buy more of this, right? Because the limiting factor of online arbitrage, and a good way to sort of segue from online arbitrage to wholesale, is after that sort of second, third order where something works and you need to order more of it, right? That's always the limiting factor of online arbitrage, is you can't get enough of it. So yeah, I think that is always it's a pretty good actually sort of model where you look at the sunscreen, you look at is our unique bundle way of doing it, look at Superdrug and you look at Boots and see there's loss leaders here. Okay, great. This bundle's working great, but I can't get enough of it. Right, let's look at Nivea. Can I buy direct from them? Can I buy them from a distributor? I can tell you you can buy Nivea from probably 100 distributors. And you can probably import it from Europe, and there's lots of different avenues, and it's not a wholesale sort of thing, but you could probably match close that Boots Superdrug. It probably won't be as good, but because you've built up that ranking, you built that unique bundle where you're the primary seller, and then you've got something that you're winning, and you're entering that wholesale space like that. But it all comes from forecasting and knowing exactly what's selling, how many of it's selling. It's all that sort of thing. Yeah.
And testing the market, that is definitely key. Like I said, you do not go from 0 to 5,000 products overnight, but there are so many routes that you can take down the replenishment business model, you know, you don't even need to go into creating your own product. Jonny, you've never created you know, your own product in like a unique product at any point.
Private
So
label.
yeah, you've got, yeah, absolutely. So there's so many different routes. Whatever way you look at it, private label, that's a replenishables business. You know, that's what it
Yeah.
is. You know, that's, you know, you break it down, you take away the flesh, the bones of it are a replenishable business. So that's always, I think, for the majority of sellers, unless you always want to be chasing your tail, that you want to establish some sort of replenishable system into your business at some time, because your replens kind of build this foundation in your business that let you give you the freedom to be able to go off and do whatever you want, albeit creatively, physical selling products, other income streams, that type of things. But it's very hard to build a passive business or a replenish or a business that you can certainly outsource without there being a level of replenishment to it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think the replenishable thing is you invest at the beginning and you reap the rewards for the next sort of 2-3 years, you know. And we're up to sort of, I think, 20,000 SKUs now, so you can sort of see how it's just building it over and over in time, right? And I think I actually probably don't even recommend that. I'd actually say we need to now start going the other way and start reducing it. I'd say too many SKUs is actually not the best thing. You get too many and it gets hard to focus on each brand and get as much value out of each. So actually for us, it's more, we have a lot of distributors. It's getting better distributors, you know, find the source, as people always say, find the source, and actually reducing our SKUs. But, you know, we've actually got to this amount of SKUs just by having a really good forecasting system and always being able to replenish. Yeah, and I do think it's the most passive approach. You know, obviously the other route, which there's nothing wrong with, and, you know, there's many successful people doing it, is build an army of VAs, build an army of virtual assistants, always checking the OA deals and knowing when those sort of discount things come around. But for us, the price we pay will be the price for the next 6 months until that distributor might do a price increase. So, you know, you can buy it over and over and over and over again. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm just going to jump in on a few comments here because we were just chit-chatting away there. Afternoon, guys. Just checking I'm not missing anybody on YouTube. You guys mainly seen Facebook today. Sometimes loads of people watch on YouTube, and then the other week other people watch on Facebook. It's weird. I don't know why, but they do. So let's have a quick look. Aftab says, I just want to check I haven't missed any comments. Doug's joined us. Hi, Doug. Just going back to what Hayden said, some sellers have definitely managed to find a way around advertising on their own listings, despite HFSS. These are old listings, that is. So I just want to clarify that point, actually. There's kind of no finding a way around it unless you're lying. You know, and I know that's quite a bold statement to make. And I'm not calling anyone out or anything like that whatsoever, saying you're only getting that because you're lying. So, well, that's a bit harsh. So it's either lying or people don't realize that HFS has come in and maybe they didn't know what they were having to do or whatever. So I think that there's no way around it other than saying it's not healthy and being able to target the advertising. We've looked into this extensively and there's no other way.
I think I'd say there's a grace period, I'd imagine, maybe for quite a while, because it is pretty complex. And, you know, I had to build a calculator from scratch, right? Well, not from scratch. I used the guidelines, but I had to build a calculator, which is still up, by the way, guys, if you still want to use that. Just to actually, you know, get the calculations correct for the Amazon business. So I imagine a lot of people are not in the know. So they've just put, oh, let's put it as healthy. Who knows? But yeah, again, people probably lie. They most likely lie because they don't want to lose that listing, that replenishable, which is getting, you know, £1,000 a day or whatever it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are ways around it. There's different ways of advertising around it, but definitely not your standard sponsored products listing, which is available to all. There's ways around it on brand registry, definitely, but not on your sponsored products. So I love Hayden's honesty here. Yeah, I tried to lie and change mine, but it didn't work. Love that. I think it's either that people that just didn't, that maybe, I'd imagine, the way I see it, if you've already said it's healthy and then try to say it's unhealthy, they won't have that. But if from the start you put it in and said it was unhealthy, that's how I reckon you get around it. But obviously not advising anyone to do that, because we live in the light and we always want to make sure that everybody, you know, doesn't get themselves into trouble with Amazon Seller Central. But again, like what Jonny said about 2024, I actually believe, maybe not this year, but maybe next year, I think we will see Amazon repealing that at some point. I can't not see it happening, that Amazon putting advertising back on grocery for HFSS. So I think it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, I have noticed that you know, people have other sellers have filled out that you know, the HFS status without us having to enter it in. So I believe it might be global now, like a sort of country, not country of origin, but sort of similar to sort of manufacturer's address and stuff, which is sort of, that can be globally changed by all the sellers. So I think, I don't know if anyone can confirm that, but I believe it's global. So someone could put it healthy and then someone else could change it to less healthy and then makes it less healthy. But I think I'm a little bit empathetic to you, Hayden. Like, I understand why people would put it as healthy. Like, we're actually not, because we're 50, I guess you're under 50 employees. I'm not sure, I haven't spoke to you for a while, but because we're under 50 employees, it doesn't apply to us. It just applies to us because it applies to Amazon. So
yeah,
it sucks. And, you know, we still have that stuff advertised on our website, which is good. But yeah, you got to be empathetic, because, you know, third party sweet sellers must have got hit hard, you know.
You've just sort of got the cogs in my brain thinking, actually, and I'm wondering, there's me saying no, there might not be a way around it, but this is why, you know, I love these sort of talks and things like this, is because it's just made me think of something. A bit like when you have to make your declaration to Amazon about your VAT exemption. So they will assume that you are not exempt from VAT. And I'm not going to go into the reasons for that. That's a whole different conversation for a whole different day, right? I'm wondering, Amazon put this HFSS advertising ban as a standard. But I'm wondering if you contact Seller Central and you state or make a declaration that your business is employing less than 50 people, maybe they make you exempt from it. Maybe there's a way. And by the way, there's no evidence, but just knowing based on experience on some things, that if you get in contact with Seller Central and you state, this doesn't affect me, I should be able to qualify for this.
I imagine they separate the brands and the sellers. They look at the listings and the sellers. So they look at the listing as this is an Amazon listing, and it doesn't matter what the sellers, we don't care about them. They're looking at the listing itself, right? That's the one that's been displayed as you would go to a bricks and mortar. And again, I've said this a million times, but it's ridiculous how just a bunch of alcohol, I drink alcohol, but it's ridiculous how it's at the front of the store, replaced all the chocolates. You know, it's the same as a listing. Like, what you see is what needs to, I think, be by the regulations, is the listing on the front end rather than the data put in on the back end by the clients.
But Amazon do actively state the difference between whether it's sold by Amazon or whether it's sold by a third-party seller. So I think it's worth a message, because don't forget this big thing that's going on with America at the moment, with the Congress, in the way that they want to separate third-party sellers and Amazon. They feel that the competition is not correct. It's weighted against the third-party seller. You know, it's unfair or whatever. There was talk that if this does go through, that Amazon is going to have to declare themselves as the seller, and everyone else is going to have to send their stock to consignment on Amazon. So based on that rule, Amazon's always made it clear, this is why they get out of liability, they get out of this, they push it onto the seller. We're not the seller, the third party is. So based on that argument, I think it's worth a message.
Why not? Give it a try. It's sad though. Like, you know, like I remember back in the day, 2-3 years ago, we just couldn't buy enough Fortune's chocolates. You just couldn't buy enough, because it would just sell out quick, and you'd have a nice tidy sort of 15%, 20% margin. And it was like the easiest. It made Amazon feel very easy back then. But I missed it even more because this Christmas, I've started up I haven't posted too much about it, but I have a German business now, and we have one chocolates product, and it was doing €1,000 a day over in Germany just off one listing. I was like, oh, that's the power of what it used to be like, and you kind of get that sort of throwback feels of the old Q4 where your chocolates just go crazy, but you just haven't had that for a while in the UK. It's a shame.
Well, there were a few people that did have it this year that did go very deep, but it was a massive chance. We didn't know how HFSS was going to affect things when Amazon released them. HFSS feels like a much bigger problem then than it is now. In terms of, as we learn things, we navigate things a little bit more and things like that. But, we'll have a catch up session on HFSS at some point soon, maybe in February, guys. We can go through and look at how it's changed. Yeah. Look at the data, look at how it's affected the business. Because I think it's important, it went in October. We went through a Q4. How did it affect? How did it impact? Because there might be people that are completely removing themselves from grocery. We didn't know if it was going to tank the whole category at some point, and as a 20,000 SKU grocery seller, Jonny, you were a bit, worried about it, obviously. So I love what Cindy said. It's going to ask Chat GTP to do a template, and Cindy looks like she's done it already. Action takers, there we go, definitely. Right, a couple more questions. Chris, would the exclusion work if you had the small business badge? No, that wouldn't make any change whatsoever. But guys, try it. Let us know. Let us know if that works. Well, Cindy said, what has she missed? Well, she's caught up now, so it's fine. Going back to, I just want to say, Scott's asked, whereabouts in the UK are you based? Well, you're not at the moment.
No. So the business, my warehouse and stuff is based in Northamptonshire, and I'm currently based in South Africa. So yeah, kind of bit of a time difference. No time difference, but a bit of a journey away. Definitely. Yeah, I don't commute to work, by the way. I kind of.
I'm glad you got that one in there before someone said it. Long commute. Well, yeah, if it's your first time watching, guys, and you've not seen Jonny or myself before or anything like that, Jonny's one of the only people I know, and I'm not saying you're the only person, Jonny, because other people will have the systems and things in place, but you're a very unique seller in the sense that you are a digital nomad, for want of a better word. But you have a physical business, as in warehouse staff, but you literally set foot in your warehouse a couple of times a year, something like that. So whereas most people, if they're going to be that digital warehouse, they tend to use prep centers, VAs, that type of thing. Whereas you've got that physical business, which has been part of the main reason why you've been able to build the business you have, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess we have a sort of I see it as a sort of distribution warehouse, and I don't think this applies to anywhere else but the UK, but we do Seller Fulfill Prime, which you probably notice, everyone who's a regular listener already knows about me, but I really feel like Seller Fulfill Prime is almost a cheat code in the UK because you can get next day delivery to everywhere in the UK. In America, it's not as powerful, right? Because I think Seller Fulfill Prime doesn't cover everywhere. So you're only sort of reaching a sort of very smaller section compared to what FBA would do in America. So I made the decision because I'm in groceries where there's other things such as minimum order quantities, Seller Fulfill Prime, and made sense for my business to sort of go in that direction. We can have a long chat about warehousing, but that's a sort of briefing about what's going on. But yeah, I kind of come back to the UK every sort of 2-3 months. Usually when my sort of visa runs out, check on the team, see the friends, see the family, see business partners, get a few beers for the team and stuff like that, and then I head off to the next place. So that's my thing. I'm more like I'm the giver. I'm the person who comes back with treats. I don't think they really see me as the boss as much anymore. They see the warehouse manager as the boss nowadays. So it's a good setup, and it's working really well. And it's my warehouse manager's almost been with me a year now. So it's just, once you find one, it's fantastic. It does change the business around. Yeah.
Jonny, we need to do another session at another time. And again, it's why I love these chats. So much more comes out of it, that how you've managed to fire yourself from your business. That would be such a powerful, sort of chat, and the dream for so many people to be able to do that. Who's put Willy Wonka? Oh, with the sweets and Hayden, Willy Wonka. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we'll come back, we'll scale back to that one at another time, because I think that'll be fascinating, because again, it's all part of the process. It's all part of, it's where you are now, but there was a lot of slog and hard work and everything that was put in place to get this done. I want to come back to Illa's question, which I'll come back into a moment, because that's kind of the next route we need to go down in the second part of this chat. But quickly, just saying hi to Sean. I've created a passive income stream, just leveraging from Amazon and investing those profits into a passive income. Love passive incomes, no work needed once it's set up correctly. So important there, Sean. So thanks for clarifying that, because that's the key, right? It's building systems, it's doing things until you get it right, it's eliminating, it's automating those processes, it's so many different levels of that. And I think that leads nicely into Illa's question, which is, what's your replen system?
So
how long have you got, right?
Yeah. But to put it shortly, 3 years ago, there was no solution really to manage it how I like to do it. So from about, I think 2.5 years ago now, I started building my own software. And what that's really helped me do with software is I've tailored it to Amazon and Replens, and it's also integrates sort of the warehouse as well. So it works very, very well and sort of ticks off all those boxes that you would need to sort of leave the warehouse and let the warehouse take care of it, or your admin team to do the replens. So it's, what I use is the sort of simple, not simple, but the Replen system. I've gone through this quite a few times in different trainings and stuff like that. But the key thing is to find out your sales per day, and then you need to know how many days of stock you want. So if you have your sales per day of 2 and you want 30 days of stock, then you need to buy 60, right? So the key thing for that is, okay, I want to buy 60, but when do I need to buy that 60? So I don't run out of stock at my warehouse or at Amazon. So it's a calculation there where you're trying to minimize overstocking and minimize stocking out, sort of thing. So I've kind of tested it on my own business for a very, very long time, sort of tweaked it, done a lot of code, and more than recently, 6 months ago, we started to actually do it as a commercial product as well. So something you'll see next month is you'll see more of it within the next month, sort of highlights of how I do it. And but again, the reason I built it is because there's nothing like it the way I do it. So that's I thought I'd bring that product out. And I actually just love. To be honest, one of my hobbies is building software and developing coding. I come from a family of developers who one of them has their own tech business. So for me, I just loved it, and I'm hoping to sort of share that within this community. Really, it's not going to be something that it's going to go to everyone. I just wanted to sort of share that with everyone. But yeah, it automates the process. So when I have 20,000 SKUs, I can sort of create purchase orders within under a minute. Send it off to the supplier, and that's it basically.
Yeah.
They confirm it. Of course they have to confirm it, and then you check the prices. Is there price increases, all that sort of stuff. And once they're confirmed, make the payment, or if you're on credit terms, then that's it. It just comes, and that's it. You just build that system, and when you can create purchase orders very quickly, then it saves a lot of admin time, saves a lot of downloading Google Sheets and saying like, okay, I've sold 3 of this and I want 30 days of this, and okay, I need 90, but I've got 100 in stock. When should I buy this? So this saves up that thought. So it makes it instant. And as far as I know, there's nothing like that. So it saves time. I have 3 or 4 admin VAs. One is part-time. So, and I ran the system on 1 or 2 for the majority of the time, but the majority of their job is finding new listings and new opportunities, really.
Yeah.
So it's not creating those purchase orders. The replens is extremely passive. So if I didn't buy any new products, they wouldn't have anything to do because they're just going to click. So it's good. And
you got to make it a little bit of a challenge for them, right?
yeah. I mean, So they do, they're that multifunctional now. They sort of do new multifunctional. They do new sourcing, and they do a bit of managing and a lot of admin as well. And we've got a nice little system coming up, but it just takes away the need for having sort of 10 admin VAs, sourcing VAs to manage 20,000 SKUs. It's just impossible out of software. So it saves time, and it's it's a software business. We're in a data business. Understand your data and be able to manipulate it and work with it as quick as possible is the way to scale without even changing your infrastructure or anything like that. It's one of the best, I think, ways to increase your revenue is just to improve your replen system, right? Is to improve your purchasing system. That is the best, I say, way to increase revenue.
Absolutely. And we hear this time and time again, and so many entrepreneurs say it, so many successful sellers say it. It really isn't a case of that shiny object syndrome. In another great example of this, who does this as well, is but more, albeit more of a manual process, Luke Dugan. He's another person like this. He will not move out of a let alone a category niche until he feels he's got that process correct, fully covered. Then he'll move on from that time. Grocery seller, again, never gone into any different geographical market because knows how much there is left in the UK to be able to do it. So it doesn't suit everyone, of course. Some people want to experience different things, but ultimately the most important thing is, you said that your hobby's a coder. Well, it's the system that you've been able to put together has enabled you to be able to go on and live your best life, traveling the world, doing what you love, which is coding. That the system's enabled you to do that. But I want to scale it back a little bit. I love Yvonne's comment there. 3 S's: structure, systems, and scale. Definitely. You can't beat that whatsoever. But
should I just touch on that question as well? What's the lowest? So it's an interesting question. Yvonne has said, what's the lowest % of profit margin approach would you consider? So again, our margins are dynamic based off our cash flow, right? So on our purchase order system, we can increase the margins. So we order less, right? So we can cut it down and only order, say, stuff over 20%. So you say our cash flow is running very thin. It's Q4, and only one of the things to keep in stock that are high margins. I can dynamically increase the margin, and it will reduce the PO to only stuff with that increased margin. So if you have little capital, or it's just Q4, or it's a spending period, dynamically be able to raise your margins and then have a real-time order value for that purchase order, or order from Superdrug or whatever it is. It's just it's really helpful. Yeah. So, but the question that you asked is about 8%. I like my lowest gross is about 8%, but I like probably about 10%, right? So about 8-10%. But we sell on other avenues such as Shopify, eBay. Shopify is a big one now for us. So sometimes we like to keep that product just in stock a little bit. So 8-10%. Yeah.
Wow. Guys, you guys, honestly, I'm so excited. You don't know what's coming. I'm not going to bring Jonny on again because he keeps giving spoiler alerts away. But, of how powerful this software is going to be for anyone that wants it. But I want to bring it back to what Illa said there as well, because not everyone either wants to do the software or wants to go down that route or whatever. So it's important. And Jonny, again, you couldn't have done it without putting that manual process in place. So that's what I wanted to touch on a little bit as well, because we are going to be providing software at some point in the future that is going to cover all of this for you, but it's not going to be for everyone. So we want to make sure that everyone has the ability to do this, regardless of whether they've got software in place. I mean, obviously I would go with the software personally, but not everyone will. So it is about creating that system, Illa and anyone else that's interested. But one of the key things, and this is what I talk continuously about, is people get, especially with Replenishables, get so caught up with ordering new products. You should not be moving on ordering new products until you are fully stocked and stocked correctly, I might add, because Jonny made a great point there as well. It's important not to stock out, but as equal importance is not overstocking. as well. So we know Amazon do not want you to carry more than 60-day stock in their fulfillment centers. They will penalize you for that now through IPI, restock limits when it's more of an issue. They're not an issue at the moment, but they might become an issue back again in the future. So it all comes down to stock management. Whatever way you look at it, that's what it comes down to. Amazon wants you to correctly manage your stock and ergo your business, because you use their facilities, but Amazon doesn't want to run your business for you, and it's going to penalize you for wasting their kind of storage space and everything like that. So what you need to be able to do is establish a manual system, essentially to start with, to see if it works for you, where you go through and you evaluate month by month over the last 12-month period every single product that you've sold, and you identify and go through and work out which ones are potentially replenishable. So that means going back, what did you sell? What was the best one that you sold? Okay, because I do this process with people. Actually, I will do this process with someone. I'll go back through, and I feel like a head teacher or a head mistress at some point, where I'm like, right, that was your best seller that month. Why is it not your best seller then? Because if we go in and look at it, I'll say it's still selling at that price. Oh, I ran out of stock. Okay, you ran out of stock. Or I didn't realize, it's come back into stock. All of these different things that come out or whatever. So you need to spend the time, and it is time that you have to invest in this, and go through and look at every single product that you've sold. Best way to do it manually, it's still software, but best way, something like Seller Board. Yep. Click into each month. It will put it in the order of highest sales to lowest sales. And you go through and you identify what are potentially your replenishable products. And then once you've got your list of replenishable products, you identify which are your best replenishable products. And then you establish a system that you do not go out of stock on those before you're even looking at any new stock. That's the process, essentially, and you do it in that order. So you will always have a continual foundation of business or products that is passively running for you. And that's a skill. Is it a skill, or is it a skill, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You used to know, so the thing is, when you get to a lot of SKUs, when is the correct time to actually order from that supplier, right? Because one inventory, one line might come available and say you have to reorder this. Okay, cool. But none of the other stuff is actually ready to order. So that's where it comes to setting yourself a sort of minimum order value for each supplier. And then this is a skill, is like knowing, okay, what is the total amount I can order right now from that supplier? Does it meet this sort of minimum order value? It's easier for OA because obviously you can do smaller orders usually. And then understanding when is the correct time, when does it reach that threshold, and when is the earliest time I can actually reorder. So that's another actually trick, another skill of actually organizing stuff, is as soon as it hits that threshold, as soon as it hits that limit, you're ordering it. So again, that's actually a skill, and building your own system on top of other things like that. But it's whether it's Slack notifications or you have a system of tracking it and making sure, this has gone over the MOV, boom, order. So that's the skill to it, I think, as well. It's just how quick are you to press the trigger and make that reorder.
And of course, I'm talking in a perfect world. I'm talking that, you can get the stock, that it's going to be available at the time that you need to order it. It's going to be the price that you need to order it. All of this has to be managed, and all of these expectations have to be managed. And so in reality, it sounds like a simple process, but it's not. But it is an achievable process. Anything that a software has been created from has come from a manual process at some point. And it really will depend on how good you are at managing manual processes. So what I would say personally is you put these things in place as early as you can within your business from a manual point of view. So establish this from a manual point of view. If you're starting in straight arbitrage, it's going to be a lot harder, because the chance of you happening upon a replenishable product in your first level of orders. But if you have been doing this business for more than 6 months, definitely more than 12 months, like I said, you need to go back through and categorically go back through each one of those months and see if you are missing any replenishable products into your business, and then do one at a time. So we talk about Jonny with this 20,000, this has been built up over a 2-3 year period, obviously. So one replenishable business product into your business every single month, compounded with that snowball effect, will make a difference. That could cover all your costs. And that's the key, right? The compounding effect is just continuously adding one a month, one a month, one a month, one a month. Then you add one a week, one a week, one a week. The systems and everything that you put into place, and it's creating that, and it's that never-ending kind of cycle of it. Not every product's going to be replenishable, and then when you find a replenishable product, it may not be replenishable forever. So this is why it's got to be a constant moving system, right?
Yeah, and touched on that, software can't do everything, so the manual process does help. And the best example of that is you have a very good listing, but your distributor that you use or your store you use doesn't have any stock left. All right, so what's the next move? You don't just leave it to the side, right? You say to your team, or you do yourself, and say, well, how can I buy this from somewhere else, right? And that's always software is not going to call up the supplier, right? You're not going to have a robot speak to, well, maybe in the future, you don't know.
I was going to say, I don't
maybe
know if we discount that now.
Yeah, so that's always going to be the manual process, where it's like you need to, obviously the software and the manual process and the system is to identify those things where, I can't get this anymore from that supplier. All right, this is such a good seller, this is making me good money. Your admin task is, how do I find this from somewhere else? So there's always that manual element, right, of that sort of thing. All software does is enables you to make that decision and identify stuff like that quicker. But you can obviously have a manual process, but it just takes longer. It's just this,
Yeah, sure. Hopefully that answers the question. I appreciate it's not, step by step kind of laid out. But like I said, just do it with one product. Achieve it with one product first of all. Build up to it. You don't need to worry about doing it with 20,000 products. Just find that one key product that you can put it in place with. Build the manual process around that, and then when you've tweaked it, try another one, and then continuously build up, because like I said, it will make your life so much easier in doing that and building that level of replenishable products into your business for sure. But like I said, we are going to have a little something that's going to help along the lines, but that is in the future, and we want as many people doing this as possible. It's doing this business right and building upon this business. Who was I talking to? I was talking about someone yesterday, actually. And I made a joke on Matt Wright's post this morning, which I haven't looked at Facebook hardly at all this morning. And, Matt was saying about, January supposed to be returnery. And, I made the comment of like, hardly any returns, which is true. Hardly any returns at all. I was like, we've been misled on January. Where's all this doom and gloom we were promised? Touch wood, obviously. But, it was tongue in cheek, by the way, guys, if anyone sees that. But again, building these type of businesses, really sit down and think about it. Is a lot of what we sell in this business, or what we strive to sell in this business, is everyday products, which ultimately, regardless of the challenging times to come, which there are going to be those, absolutely, then these type of businesses will continue to roll. They'll continue to move, and you can continue to build them. And that lost margin, where you go out of stock of something, or, worse, you don't even realize you're missing out on it. I went through this exercise with someone the other day, and I estimate that this particular person who had gone out of stock of their best 2 or 3 resellers over Q4 probably lost something in the region of 20,000-30,000 in revenue.
Yeah.
And they didn't even realize they were out of stock.
It's a tough
as
one
well.
because one way of looking at it, when you stock out, you've made your money back, right? And there's obviously, this is why it's so complex. And like Amazon, there's other methods to keep in stock, increasing your prices, right? So although this is all very important, it's all a package, right? It's like how your pricing rules set up. Are you increasing your price when that person was running out of stock? Was he increasing his price and getting that extra margin? What was the reason why he didn't replan? Was it just sort of his systems weren't good enough? Was the distributor didn't have enough stock? So I think there's so many different variables, and it's all just the skill in Amazon is just putting it all together, I would say. But yeah, I would say the only person, like, because it does sound a lot, it's just if you do stock out, it's not the end of the world. It's not ideal, but at least you've made your money back, and then it's better than buying more than you need, because that's the worst thing is when you buy too much stock, because then you have that stock just kind of hanging about, right? And
Yeah,
that's
I'd rather stock out any day of the week than overstock, especially over the Q4 seasonal period as well, when products are so highly targeted towards seasonality. But again, this is where there's so much depth and there's so many layers to these businesses, depending on which way you go. Going out of stock for me is a much bigger deal than it is for Jonny, because if I go out of stock, they're on my own listings, which has a far more damageable impact than it does if you go out of stock. Because if you go out of stock, then there might be another seller that can pick up the slack of the stock or something like that. Or even if not, it's generally such an established listing, it doesn't have a massive amount of impact. It's such a credible, proven, listing in that request. Whereas on my one, then if I go out of stock, I've got to pump a load of PPC potentially back into it to get it back up to where it was. Amazon hates it. It's saying to me, and this is that level of understanding of what Amazon wants, and I bang on about this all the time. The reason they punish you for going out of stock is because you're not running your business as they want you to run your business. They look at it and say, you're untrustworthy. You're not running your business as you're supposed to be running your business. So we are not going to put our trust in you. We're going to put it in the other seller who's in stock.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And it sounds really dramatic the way that I say that, but there is such a thing as the Amazon Trust Credibility Store. And if you continue to break Amazon's trust, they will lose faith in you as a seller.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of brands have that same approach where, they don't list direct on Amazon, because I assume it's for that reason where they're completely reliant on themselves to keep stuff in stock constantly, right? So a lot of the brands I speak to always want about 3 or 4 authorized resellers, because they always have that buffer, right? So if one person runs out, they've got the other person sort of carrying over the PPC and keeping that ranking well. But in your situation where you're doing a lot of private label, I've had that with my own listings where it's just damaging, right? You just every day you look and keeper and you see that sales rank just creeping up, and it's just like, come on, Amazon, receive that stock. So I can see it in that angle, right? That's sort of the elevator. Yeah,
it's the lost opportunity cost as well. That's what you've got to take into account. It's so often people in this business focus on what they sell, but a lot of the time you guys need to look at what you're not selling and the reason why you're not selling that. And, everything, again, we're putting in place to be able to facilitate that for people, I think is really going to, through learning, through new educational opportunities, through software abilities and things like that. We're no longer going to be e-com. Not that we were ever that, because we're a relatively new group anyway, but, we're not here for a side hustle, guys. We're here for developing 7-figure sellers. It's as simple as that. That's what it comes down to. Or if you don't want to go to be a 7-figure seller, developing people with real margins, real processes. Matt said to me this morning, Matt Cramey said to me this morning, we were talking to someone else. He said, which is so true, and he does come out with these good pearls of wisdom. These businesses now, you need to set them up and you need to operate them in a way that in 10 years' time, someone's going to come to you and offer you millions of pounds for your business. It needs to be done directly and set up right in that respect. They can't have, through any type of due diligence, there can't be anything exposed, you've not been doing that right, or it's that. These need to be run like well-oiled machines now, because this isn't a side hustle anymore. This isn't, flipping a few things on eBay. This is, making a real difference and building real businesses. It's as simple as that. And that's what this group has been created for and will continue to support in the future.
Yeah, I think Scott from Smart Scout just recently sold his resale business. I need to look up on that. So, like, yeah, I mean, it's always a little bit harder to exit on resale businesses, but it's always possible. And he's a software guy as well, with good systems. And, some people use this business just to cash flow, right, and then get into something else. And but yeah, that's it's interesting news that he actually sold his resale business. I think it wasn't his passion, right? And just wanted to Smart Scout, which is cool software.
Very cool.
We're not affiliates, but it's cool software that it's a little bit different. But yeah.
That's about building that, definitely. Yvonne, you're coming out with those pearls of Whipson today as well. Another saying for today, build it to sell. Definitely. Rosie said, Matt Cromie, fantastic advice. Definitely. Just going back to Cindy quickly, FYI, I just reread the HFSS rules, and actually the location part of the regulation comes into effect in October 23. If it was the only volume part of the regulations, that came out in 2022. So you shouldn't be allowed to sell bog off. That's correct. That part got delayed due to COVID because they were concerned about cost of living. And if people couldn't offer like buy one, get one free, things like that, it would have, it would be like, I don't know, saying that the worse off people in the economy wouldn't be able to afford certain things. But well, I suppose in reality, like buy one get one free is like a scam anyway, right? Because you're never going to get it any cheaper. But that's why they got rid of that part. They did break it down into two parts, and it's businesses under 50 employees on the first day of their financial year. So yeah, let us know how you get on with that one, because I'll be interested. 90% of me is like nothing will come of it, but you don't ask, you don't get. That's the way I see it.
It's very true.
Chris says, that's one of the few things that I have over FBA sellers in the stock and is taking days, weeks to be sorted at FBA. Chris is merchant fulfilled seller. So yeah, absolutely. And this is what I love about this type of business. Whatever way you operate your business, there's always something for you. It might not be arbitrage, it might not be bundles, it might not be private label, it might be wholesale, it might not be seller fulfilled, it might be FBA. There's so many different options and so many different platforms and locations, and if you cannot find something that works for you in this business, I don't know if anything will, to be honest, because there's always something that you can stream off of an income from starting this business. So much opportunity, such a great gateway business.
Sorry, I was going to say.
I'll let you talk, don't worry.
So I actually prefer merchant fulfilled over FBA. Our margins are better. We get instantly be able to sell stock straight away. Again, we can put multiple units in one package. But what I love about FBA is just if I didn't have FBA, I'd have to get a bigger warehouse every 6 months. Right? It's so good to be able to leverage FBA space and their cheap storage, and then their same day delivery and their very cheap fulfillment. So again, yeah, it's an interesting one. If you're just doing merchant fulfilled, do you have that sort of FBA as a sort of side thing, which we do just to sort of send your top sellers to, just to clear up your garage or your warehouse space? And that's always an interesting dilemma of like, which one do you go for and what do you target towards? What's going to make you the most money? What's going to clear the most space? What's going to allow you to scale to that extra point? So, yeah, I love merchant fulfilled, but FBA for us is the way to clear space, reduce warehouse space. Because my team are always like, we need to move to a new warehouse, and my manager's just saying to them, no, just do more FBA, process more FBA, and clear this warehouse now. So there's always that sort of battle, right, of doing more FBA and sourcing and all that sort of thing. But merchant feels great. I love it. In the UK, it's fantastic. In America, not as good, I don't think. I don't think it's as good. Pharma Packs, you got to look at Pharma Packs, right? Out of business, they're a merchant fulfilled company in America. If they had access to seller fulfill Prime and across all of America, imagine what their revenue would be like if that ever came into play where they could do sort of same day, next day shipping or self-fulfill Prime in America, then maybe a big game changer there. But
yeah, for cool. Let's have a quick look. Oh, Danielle, would you suggest wholesale sourcing for bundles? Not always. No, I'm a big believer in the test system. I think that's what Jonny and I have massively in common. You know, we do not invest 300 units or 500 units straight into a bundle. We test, we make sure, and you know, we ensure we don't sell at the start for profit either. So as long as I know that I can make the margin at a later stage, that's the most important thing. So I will always source from retail to start with, generally, unless I already have a relationship or I'm already buying, you know, something from that particular wholesaler or something like that. But buy from retail first of all, test it, check it works, don't make any money on it. People get too caught up in that it actually stops them. It becomes like a blinkers. Oh, okay, I'm not going to make any money, so I'm not going to go ahead. Well, you need to know that you'll be able to make money in the future, but it's like a vicious circle. You know, you can't make money without getting it cheaper, but you can't order it cheaper unless you know it's going to work and you can make that investment into the units. So test. But ultimately, it is predominantly wholesale that we work with on the unique bundle side of things. So that's, again, just as what Jonny's spoken about, it's progressing to that level. That's the goal, to be able to do that. And what is it? It's a replenishable business. That's what it is. It's a replens business. You can tart it up, you know, any way you want, but it's, you know, test, check it works, get the right price, work out how much it sells in what velocity as well, because there's only one way that you can tell how much something truly sells, and that's to sell it and be the only seller listing on it for a certain period of time. So even as a reseller, you still don't know how much it truly sells. It's only when you have full control of that listing.
Yeah, precisely. Some brands sometimes want me to send like a container load to like Germany, and I was just like, no, that's not how Amazon work. We're not just gonna be that Amazon, take all that risk. But yeah, completely agree with that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you carry on.
Yeah, surprised Jonny isn't a prep center too and got another income generated in his warehouse. So I mean, I have a lot of incomes. It's just another thing I need to worry about. Also space as well. So I don't want to half-ass anything, right? If I'm going to bring something to the market or I'm going to bring something and do something, I want to do it very well. One thing, like my German business, is good, but it's not as good as I can make it because I don't currently have the time. My focus is all on software and you know, probably 20% my UK business, 15% my UK business, but 80% of my time is now software. You know, my property is probably like a few percent, and all the other sort of business and training. So for me, it's a trick where you try and get as many income streams as possible to diversify, but sometimes that could end badly because you start making mistakes on one, which will lose money, or it doesn't work out because you've only gone a quarter of your sort of effort into it. And you know, I work hard. I don't really stop working, and then it's all towards what's going to work, and I would put everything to make sure that works. And it's like people who trade and do crypto and NFTs on the side. I'm just like, just hold up. Like, this is a high risk investment. You need to put 12, 14 hours a day into that to actually get good at becoming a trader. And maybe you won't succeed anyway, because it's a very difficult thing to be a decent trader. So if someone says to me, like, let's start this prep center or let's start this other business, I'm like, I can't. Like, I've got my commitment here. Concentrate on this. This one's going to be successful for me. So that's, yeah, don't spread yourself too thin, I'd say.
Absolutely. I can completely vouch for what Jonny said there. He is a workaholic. There is no doubt about it. We had a joke the other day where we're in a group chat and we had a joke that we hadn't heard from Jonny in a couple of hours. And we were like, where's Jonny? Jonny must be doing something because, like, he's not working. Something's going on here. And when we spoke the next day, you were a little bit worse for wear because you treated yourself out to a night out. And I was like, we knew that you had gone somewhere because you weren't online.
This wasn't on my Slack, just instantly replying saying,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. I
Yeah.
know. And yeah, so definitely AI, Jonny, you are a workaholic. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. But it's your passion. You enjoy it. So it's cool.
Exactly. Should I cover the MF one as well with the feedback?
Which one was this?
So below the surprise Jonny is in a prep center. MF is the feedback for downside with the AZ claims. So with FBA, you can automatically remove all feedback for some reason. They just sort of, every time you go to remove feedback in the UK and you're doing FBA, they instantly remove it. MF is you really have to sort of contact the managing director and put in a proper like template to actually get that feedback removed. Say it's something like it's damaged or something like that. It's very tough sometimes to remove your feedback. So, if you're going to start doing MF, then your feedback score is never going to be as good. Like if you look at like pharma packs back in the US, their feedback score was like 88%.
Yeah.
Most FBA sellers, it should be 100% or 99 because I can't see why they wouldn't remove it. Unless I've never not been able to get an FBA feedback removed in the last year. And yeah, the A2C claims as well. One of the good things again about self-fulfilled prime is we're covered by doing those sort of these other sort of, you can usually get most of the money back from A2C claims. If you've got Royal Mail, then you can usually recover the money by putting a damaged claim with Royal Mail. Amazon shipping are usually pretty good as well, as long as it's a Amazon order as well. And then there's stuff like safety claims and stuff like that. If you do self-fulfilled prime, where you should be able to get the majority of your money back. The problematic stuff for us is usually international stuff. For some reason, it's hard for us to get back because we'd have to refund the customer, but then it would arrive like a week later because it got stuck in customs. So Royal Mail say, yeah, we've delivered it, but I can't get the money back because Amazon have already decided to refund the money. So the riskiest thing for MF for me is international. International delivery. That's always a tricky one, I find. Yeah.
Definitely. Top tip as well on the feedback side of things for anyone that doesn't know. Jonny's quite right there. If you're reseller doing FBA, then there should really be no reason why you can't get a feedback removed, albeit automatically or once you go through the escalation process, right up to managing director. But for merchant fulfilled or seller fulfilled as well, it's always worth. Again, I think sometimes people skip the process and things because they think, oh, it won't work, so I'm not going to try. But that automatic removal, I'm not sure if people are aware, it's a bot system, right? So there's not someone doing it. It's automatic removal for a reason. So what Amazon will have done is pumped a load of information into it. So if it's got the wrong type of word, even if it's your fault on merchant fulfilled, if somebody's put something against the bot system that Amazon have put into it, like an abusive term, or it's a swear word, or the wrong type of word, or something like that whatsoever, then they will just remove it automatically. So it's always worth, no matter what, always going down the automatic removal. I did it with someone online the other day. They were like, it's merchant fulfilled. They said I couldn't remove it. I said, just try it on the automatic. And it went through and it got removed.
Yeah.
So
we struggle with the automatic ones. It doesn't work. So we always have to email managing director, and then we put the FAO to the executive selling partner team, or whatever they're called. Executive selling partner relations. So you do the FAO email to them, and then I recommend going to ChatGPT, seriously, and saying this customer said the item wasn't described. Please write me a removal request to whoever. And usually it's pretty good, the one they write up. And I've been using the chat templates, whatever ChatGPT sort of spit out as the ones I've been using recently with really high success. But you have to take the extra step with MF removals. Yeah. Feedback removals.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Just some things there. MF can only work on higher value. I think that's more kind of chit chat between each other, but give it a go, see what works for you. I know some people that won't touch MF on the higher value for the returns, but I also know that people who have phenomenal successes selling higher value stuff. This is what I mean. Test it, try it, see what works for you. Don't make that assumption. We're currently doing something at the moment on across the pond where there's something, an area where most people are staying away from because they assume it doesn't work. But when people assume that, there's always the demand's still there, there's opportunity still there. So, you know, we're testing if there's a little niche area that we can go into at the moment in our selling across the pond. So it's always worth testing. You don't know, you can't say for sure unless you've tested for sure. FBA Ben, Jonny back in the house, let's go. Nice cap, Jonny, looking dope AF. I won't say it just in case it gets censored or banned as a serious Amazon killer. Definitely. I know you're looking very cool today.
I've got the hat on actually to cover up the eyes, which are I've got a bit of sunstroke, so trying to like look a bit cooler with the hat, so kind of like, you know, you can't really see much. So
no, I think it's because I look like for some reason I don't know if your lighting is so good or whether it is the radioactive glow of your sunstroke. I'm not sure, but I like literally I look grey. I look 50 shades of grey for some reason compared to
the sun's up here.
Yeah,
it's the sun from the window, right? It gives it a nice little
I know. I think that's it, actually. This is a very snowy sky looking out. So hence the reason why I'm looking grey. But yeah, I agree, Ben. 100%. He's looking cool. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. We love doing the show. So we'll always do it as long as we can, for sure. Let's go back. I just wanted to we'll give it another 5 minutes, guys, and we'll wrap it up before Jonny passes out from sunstroke. Chris said, I actually had a call from Amazon today via my Shopify telling me that they could offer the following: some support for small, medium-sized businesses. You'll be paired with an account manager located in the UK who will be a point of contact for questions, etc., etc., etc. So that's interesting. Amazon directly are reaching out to Shopify store owners to try and migrate them onto Amazon.
What? That's very interesting.
Really interesting. So they're obviously going down that route of trying to convert as many people on there as possible. So yeah, I've not heard of that before. So thanks for sharing that, Chris. Really appreciate it. Cindy said, love it when a buyer leaves a bad review on the seller account rather than the product strike through. Definitely. There's lots of different rules, you know. Again, definitely harder to enforce if you're selling your own products. If it's a resale product, you are not the manufacturer of that product, so therefore why should you be penalized with a review? But if it is your own private label listing, even FBA, they are harder to remove. But as Cindy says, as soon as they say it arrived late and they do a product review on the service or something like that, it's a strike through, even on your own products. So yeah, always worth trying for sure. Just I think just a little bit of chat. Ben's asked about VA. Spoke to my first today. Appreciate any quick tips. So any quick tips to offer? I mean, VAs, that's a whole nother session, definitely. One that we'll look at actually doing as well, because I know VAs are very hot at the moment. Everyone wants a VA. So
my tip is just if you're hiring, run them through a little like Google Sheets test and get them to like loom it or take some short video of them doing it, and then just sort of like analyze how their brain thinks and how they tackle a task which is set up to sort of, which will be a key skill in what they're doing. So we just do a random sort of Google Sheets task and just get them to to loom it from the start, and then you have a quick look at it and just see how their brain works. Because then if they're a good problem solver, then yeah, they're usually pretty good. If they've got other clients and stuff like that, obviously you got to watch out for that and stuff like that. If they're too professional, like they're sort of, if they look at their CV and it's all flashy and they've worked for a lot of other Amazon agencies and Amazon businesses, then that could be a red flag that they could be sort of jumping from one to the other. Yeah.
Great tip. I've never heard anyone say that about giving them a little test in that respect. But also, even from a test point of view, that's a really good training way of identifying anything they could be doing wrong in the process as well once they're hired. So certainly at the early stages, and that would work really well with due diligence, and it would also really work well with sourcing as well. So get them to record and do the process, send it back to you, especially if you're not working, you know, if you've got VAs and they're not delivering what you're expecting. That's a really great way to be able to not monitor them, but to be able to identify as their employer, essentially, even though you're not their employer, of any training they might need or what they're missing in the process.
Yeah. I don't particularly mind if they have Amazon. I actually sometimes prefer they don't have Amazon experience. I like I rather just speak to them and just see how their brain works and how like responsive and just get a feel really and just see how they work really. And at the end of the day, I think as long as people are trainable, that's usually what you need to look for. Nice people who are trainable, they communicate a lot, especially in the sort of admin sort of sourcing. That's what you really want. When I work with developers, they're like the opposite. So like the way I speak and manage them is completely different to the admin VAs and sourcing VAs. So yeah,
definitely. Red Duan, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry, apologies. I didn't mean to cause any offensive. It's not. Just saying about wanting to diversify into business and set up a shop on Shopify. Any tips for that? But again, that's something that can massively go into like a whole nother hour's spill. But I promise, we are going to cover things like that in the future because Jonny, you are literally doing some genius stuff on Shopify at the moment to help boost and promote your other businesses, physical product selling businesses. And I know at some point that you're going to be sharing that with people in order to, and again, Matt as well. I don't sell on Shopify. I've sold on Shopify previously, had a previous B2C business on that. But Matt and Jonny are the ones that are going to kind of go down that Shopify route and show you how all to do that brilliantly a bit later on.
Yeah, it's a big question. It's a lot to it. Just figure out I think briefly figure out your why. You know, why are you doing that? You know, what is the actual goal of it? Both me and Matt have our niches, so we want to be more in that space and be a bigger name and business in those spaces. So that's our why. So that's it. We just want to be big in our categories, and that's the way to do it. But yeah, that's another time. It's because otherwise it's just going for a long time.
I know we would literally still be here. We should do a challenge one day. We should try like for charity or something like that. See if we can do like a 24-hour Never Mind the Buy Box stream or something. That would be cool. Get loads of people on because I could do it for 24 hours, definitely. For sure.
You'd probably enjoy it because
I would love it. 24 hours of me talking. I would love it. Yeah, definitely. Dream come true. See, guys, dreams do come true on Amazon if you follow it. Just Chris, final comment, and then we'll sign off for today. Chris has said about flexible customer financing. So this has actually been something that's been going on for the Amazon have been doing it for a while, but they're obviously rolling it out to third-party sellers. So but normally it has to be over a certain purchase amount. So, you know, they're not going to let you buy, a tub of OXO or something like that or over 3 monthly install. Well, they might, I don't know. But definitely for higher cost things, we've purchased on it from business and customer point of view. Jonny, I don't know if you've heard of it, but they've been doing it, but I didn't know it was available to third-party sellers.
I haven't looked into it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'll look into it after this. Yeah.
Yeah. That will be... That will definitely be good for people that are selling, you know, high value stuff. So probably like Matt Wright, definitely be interested in that sort of service for sure. But again, that's what I love about Amazon, different facilitators for different businesses. That's the way it is. So please do, Chris, appreciate it for sure. So I think that brings us to the end of today's session. Hopefully the goal of this session today was to highlight to you guys how much you do want to be able to divert some of your attention to building that level of replenishable business within whatever business or whatever physical product business you're running, because it really does bring stability and the ability to be able to scale within that business. You'll find it's a lot easier to scale off of a foundation than it does off of a traditional 100% arbitrage business, you know. So that was the goal of today's session. Definitely going to be focusing on this in everything that we're going to be doing moving forward, but also not only focus on it, but over some hopefully proactive solutions for you as well. So this is the route we're going in. You know, this is what you're going to hear us preaching about in whatever business that you're running. Build that foundation, put it through, and then you can scale from there. And you can be just like Jonny in 3 years' time, sat digital nomading, if that's what you want to do, getting sunstroke.
Getting sunstroke. Fun times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we will be back. Thank you, everyone. God, you guys, like, either we were super interesting or you had nothing better to do. Like, literally, the numbers today were huge, and you guys stayed the whole time. No one left, which was amazing. So we'll be back same time next week. Well, I won't be. It's going to be Jonny and Matt next week. I'm off doing something different. And so it'd be these guys. But I was actually thinking, do you know what? Coming to light, you and Matt are a perfect example of this. A session next week, I think good thing for you guys to talk through is how to fire yourself, because you've both done it from your business. And it's an area I'm working on. I'm, looking to Jonny and Matt for that, because we've never successfully been able to fire ourselves, but you guys have. So that's the dream for a lot of people, right? So could be a good subject matter.
Yeah, I think it will be. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I can talk a little bit more about South Africa as well, once I've got to know the place a little bit more and how it is for like a digital nomad and whether we should come to South Africa.
Yeah, definitely as well. We didn't even like touch on it today, but I feel it's because Jonny couldn't sit outside.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to.
Tune in next week to hear more about that.
Tune in next week to see the beautiful scenery of South Africa that Jonny can't sit in at the moment. So again, thanks for your attention. Jonny, thanks for joining us. I know you are feeling genuinely a little bit under the weather with that sunstroke. You will see the guys next week. If you are watching via YouTube, please subscribe so you always get that notification when we go live. Give us a thumbs up, drop a comment on the actual video if you can. I know you might have commented on the live stream, but it's always helpful if you can drop that comment on the video as well to say you enjoyed it, or if you didn't. And if you put you didn't, I'm going to get it deleted. So whatever way you can, it helps us out. But 1 o'clock next week, Tuesday, with Matt and Jonny. We will see you then. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.